Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money, with your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 166 of Screw the Commute podcast. Today we're going to talk about leasing commercial space. And all right, I know some of you won't listen to my advice to screw the commute, or maybe you're screwing the commute, but you need some office space for employees or warehouse space or something like that. So that's what this episode's about. Keep you out of trouble when you're leasing. Hope you didn't miss episode 165 with Waldo Waldman. I mean, what an inspiration and defender of our country. I mean, you got to listen to this episode. This guy is great. And also, please tell your friends about this podcast. I know you know somebody that's either starting a business or already in a business, and this is a perfect place for them to be. So they'll thank you for it. And our podcast app's in the iTunes store. You can go to screwthecommute.com/app. That's APP. And it's got complete instructions to show you how to use all the fancy features so you can take us with you on the road. And also, remember to download your freebie for listening to this podcast. It's my $27 ebook, How to Automate Your Business. And just one of the tips in this ebook to save me over 7.5 million keystrokes. It's got all kinds of great tips in it. And you can check that out at screwthecommute.com/automate free. screwthecommute.com/automate free. Now, our sponsor this week is the Great Internet Marketing Retreat and Joint Venture Program, where myself and my staff work with you for a year to either get you started in an internet business or use the internet to take your existing business to the next level. And don't think you got to take a whole year before you start making money. Some people start making money within a month or two. So check it out. All right, let's get to the main event, leasing commercial space. Now, of course, I think you're thinking that this topic seems like it's totally against my podcast title of Screw the Commute. Well, I really want you working out of your home, but there are times when you need commercial space. And hey, I have a school where I lease commercial space, but I hardly ever go there unless we're having an event or an inspection by the state. So I have not violated my vow of always working from my home. So let's look at some of the things you're up against when you should be, and that you should be thinking about before you go looking to rent an office or warehouse. Well, first, what do you need it for? I mean, for my distance learning school, I simply needed to comply with state regulations. And I figured if I'm going to bother to rent a place, I should go ahead and get enough space to handle my own small events. So I wouldn't have to go to a hotel every time I had one of my butt camps or other training sessions. And for those of you that don't know, Butt Camp is one of the longest running internet marketing seminars ever. I named it that way because I was sitting on my rear end making lots of money. So anyway, what are you getting space for? I mean, do you need it because of regulations like me? Do you need it for appearances so that you look more professional to prospective clients? Do you need it just because you want to or need to get out of the house to be more productive? I mean, maybe you have a bunch of kids and it's not fair to them to make them be quiet all the time because you're on the phone. So at any rate, you have to figure out why you need to have the space. Another consideration is, does the space need to be in an upscale area to impress clients, or does that not matter? I mean, that will make a big difference in the cost of the space. Next is, how far are you willing to, and I got to say that dirty word, commute. All right. How far are you willing to commute to get to your space? Then, how much space do you really need? Do you just need a desk and a computer? Do you need a couple rooms and a reception area? I mean, will you be expanding with workspace for interns or employees? I mean, do you need storage space? And here's a rule of thumb. I just got it off one of the real estate sites, is you got to figure 100 to 150 square feet per employee or per person that's going to occupy the space. Now, that doesn't count for warehouse space, obviously, but that's just a basic rule of thumb to get you in the ballpark. All right, now, does the building have good facilities for internet? I mean, I switched to Fios fiber optics and it's been perfect, but it's not available in all areas. Are there noise considerations? Maybe you're doing a podcast or you set up a video studio and you can't have road noise or noise from other businesses in the same or nearby building. How long a lease are you willing to sign? I mean, and besides the cost of the space, and I'm just giving you lots of things to think about. Besides the cost of the space, how much budget do you have to furnish the space? Are you willing to shop around for used stuff, or do you want to impress with everything being brand new? Are you willing to put up with yearly rent increases? I mean, I finally got sick of it and complained, and they took off the increase for that year. And of course, you have more bargaining power if you aren't a pain in the neck tenant and your lease payment is always paid on time or early. All right, so now let's talk about terms you'll find when it comes to leasing commercial space. And plus, you might see different terms used in different parts of the country, so you need to get familiar with the terms used in your area. So here's some basic ones. The leasor, that's the person or company that leases the space. The leasee, that's you. Common area maintenance. Now, these are areas like hallways and walkways that aren't directly in your lease space, but that everyone shares. Fully serviced lease. That's where your rental payment includes all kinds of stuff like utilities, grass cutting, snow removal, etc. Now, I think some places call that a gross lease, where the landlord pays for all kinds of stuff out of your lease payment. Now, you got double net lease. This is the lease that includes taxes and insurance and the lease fee, but you pay maintenance costs. A triple net lease, the monthly payment includes taxes, insurance, and maintenance. There's all kinds of terms here. Gross square footage is the total square footage of the building or office being leased and usually includes the common space. HVAC, that's heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. Build out, leasehold improvements, and tenant improvements. Now, these are things that need to be done to get the space usable for your purposes, and everything can be negotiated of what you pay for and what the landlord pays for. Turnkey, that means the place will be ready for you to just walk in and start your business. Sublease, that's an agreement with the landlord and another person or business to use part or all of your space. All of your space might mean you want to get out of your lease early and you find someone to take over the payments and occupy the space so you can leave without getting sued for the balance of the rent. Tenant improvement allowance. This is money the landlord is willing to spend to help you get the space ready for your intended use. And these funds, actually can be part of what are called tenant inducements. Now, tenant inducements are things the landlord is willing to do to get you to lease the space. And the more vacancies in the area, the more things you can ask for, like free rent for several months, cash for moving expenses, upgraded conference room, furniture, a rent freeze. I mean, basically, if the market has lots of empty space, you can push pretty hard for just about anything you want. Now, if space is hard to find, well, you won't find many inducements available because the landlord has people lined up to take the space if you don't. All right, a percentage rent lease. Now, this is frequently seen in malls and strip malls where the landlord gets a percentage of your sales, and it's doubtful I would ever agree to such a lease. Now, this is by no means a comprehensive list of items. I highly suggest you get an attorney to go over any kind of lease, either commercial or residential, you're thinking about signing. I mean, there are tons of clauses that certainly all favor the landlord that could bite you in the butt if you just go ahead and sign because you're excited to move forward. Don't do it. Make sure you think it through and have other competent professionals explain each clause in the lease. Now, I want this podcast to help you and give you things to think about, but this is really an important step and absolutely needs professional input before you plunk down your deposit. Now, I've provided lots of links in the show notes. There's a really good article by Property Metrics called 10 Boring, boilerplate commercial lease clauses you should understand, right? And please just read as much as you can because it could save you tens of thousands of dollars or even more over the course of your lease. So I have lots of links to terms and tips for leasing commercial space. All right, so let's get into some of the tips that I kind of know about. And I'm going to say it again. Do the best you can researching on your own, but always, that's with all caps, right? Involve an attorney familiar, here's the thing, familiar with commercial leases in your area. Yeah, you could call your brother-in-law who lives 2,000 miles away, but he probably doesn't know the local norms in the market you're in. You should find someone local and try the best you can to make sure they aren't buddies with the landlord. And I would even ask them if they have any business or personal relationship with the landlord or the landlord's company. All right, cost per square foot. Here's something that's always been confusing to me. It's actually understanding cost per square foot. Now, you'll see ads that say something like $22 per square foot. Well, what that normally means is $22 per square foot per year. So if you divide that by 12 months in the year, well, that's $1.83 per square foot per month. And if you didn't know that, you would figure out that your rent was, like, say, for a 1,000 square foot office was $22,000 a month. Right? Yikes. When it's actually $1,833 per month. But wait, there's more. Is it really $1,833 per month, or is it more, or is it less? Well, that figure may be designed to suck you in, and it refers only to base rent. It probably doesn't account for other fees for maintenance, maybe a lobby and communal bathroom areas, a doorman, security, and whatever else the landlord can throw at you, garbage. Also, you have the topic of rentable square footage versus usable square footage. So what's that mean? All right, so rentable square feet, this is the entire space that you lease as if you put a tape measure around the complete perimeter of the space. And that includes spaces you can't even use, like space taken up by interior walls and such. Now, usable square feet, this is the space you lease that you can actually use. So here we go with another topic you need to know about. This is called loss factor. So the loss factor is the difference between the rentable square feet and the usable area. So if you need 2,000 square feet, you might have to lease and pay for 3,000 square feet. And now I'm just making these numbers up, but I'm hoping you get the idea that a lowball figure for the lease may have very little to do with what you will actually pay every single month of the lease. And I put some links here from squarefoot.com that explains this stuff even deeper. Now, another thing you should do is check around the best you can to see if the asking rent is normal for the area you're considering. I mean, stop into related businesses and introduce yourself. See if the business owner or manager is willing to talk to you about their experience leasing from this landlord. Maybe they'll slip up and tell you how much they pay. Maybe you can tell them how much the landlord's asking and see if they agree that that amount is reasonable or the same that they're paying. So a little honest hello, how are you research can go a long way. Hey, maybe they tell you the AC is always broken. Maybe the halls and bathrooms are always dirty, and you might be paying extra for maintaining those areas. I mean, you can learn a lot from current tenants. Drive by the property at all hours of day and night. I mean, at nighttime, is there adequate lighting? Are there unsavory characters hanging around the building? At peak traffic times, is it easy or difficult to get to your space? Is there a backup generator for the property? I mean, look at the ceilings and see if there's evidence of roof leaks. Are the locks adequate, or will you have to change them? Are you even allowed to change them? What about the ADA? That's the Americans with Disabilities Act. Hey, if the building is not compliant, you might have large costs involved in getting your space compliant or face potential lawsuits and shutdowns. Check out how the lease is terminated. In other words, how do you get out of the lease? How is the lease breached by either party? Here's something to think about. How about a competitor clause where the landlord has to clear it with you before renting to a competitor? Or the landlord just agrees in writing not to rent to a competitor. Just make sure it's clearly outlined what a competitor is so the landlord can't easily rent to anyone he or she wants to and then claim that the other entity was not competitive. What about renewal clauses if you want to stay past the term of the lease? I mean, these are all things you have to consider and why you should have an attorney review any agreement before you sign. I mean, I could go on, but the bottom line is if you decide to ignore my idea of screwing the commute and you're going to rent space, just remember how serious this is and do it right by reviewing as many resources as you can and get a competent local attorney. So, hey, folks, I kind of turned the internet marketing world on its head around the year 2000 because people like me were charging $50,000 or $100,000 up front to teach internet marketing skills to people. And I thought, I'm a small business advocate. I thought that's too much money. You're putting the small business at risk. And a lot of the people doing that were ripoffs anyway and wouldn't, lift a finger to help you after they got all their money. So I kind of made all the gurus mad and flipped everything upside down. And I help people by charging them a relatively small entry fee to the program, and then I get a percentage of their profits that's capped, so they're not stuck with me forever. So for me to get my big money from what I'm worth, they have to make way bigger money, and by that time, they don't need me anymore. So it's a beautiful thing, and 1,700 students later, they're still coming in and enjoying all the great perks we have in this program that are very unique, one of which is you get an immersion weekend where you actually live in my estate home, the Great Internet Marketing Retreat Center. Another thing is you get a scholarship to my internet marketing school. It's the only licensed dedicated internet marketing school in the country. And the scholarship's worth $19,100, and you can either use it yourself or gift it to a relative or a friend. So it's just very powerful. Plus, we do video production for you. We teach you how to do things on a shoestring budget. I mean, it's, like I said, it's arguably the most successful program of its kind ever, and it's been running for over 20 years. So got a long, long track record of no lawsuits, no chargebacks, nobody asking for refunds. I mean, it's very, very powerful and reputable. In fact, I have a document that you can download that shows you how to pick a mentor. So if you're interested in that, just email me at orders@antion.com and I'll send it to you. But you can also check out the entire program at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. And of course, that'll be in the show notes. This is episode 166. So thanks for listening. If you do have to do commercial space, use a lot of these to start giving you the ideas of what to think about, and then research. And then when you're ready to move, get an attorney. Even before you're ready to move, an attorney can probably save you some hassle in your local market. All right, everybody, we'll catch y'all on the next episode. See you later.